There we go. So welcome everybody. My name's Sue and I'm here to introduce our fabulous trainer today for our Love Biz Networking Training and Development Workshops. So Adrianne, welcome. Would you like to introduce yourself?
So thank you, Sue. I'm Adrianne Carter, and I'm a body language expert. So some of you may know me as the face whisperer, which I still am the face whisperer, but I've added my skills with body language to the mix, which seems to be really helping my business.
That's fantastic. And I mentioned to some of my members earlier, you're the go-to person for media and TV for responding to facial expressions and really telling the truth, aren't you?
Yes.
What those people are actually thinking. And I love following you, Adrianne, on the socials, because you give away so many fantastic tips, which if some of you have been to my events, and I have shared some of those things with you and promoted Adrianne, because some of those things are quite simple, but if you know how to read them. So thank you for all the shares. Everyone, you need to go and follow Adrianne on TikTok, because how many followers have you got on TikTok
I
now?
hit 200,000 overnight. Yeah.
Isn't that incredible?
And I've made $5.52 so far.
Woohoo! And what are you going to do with all that money?
I'm probably going to buy a Fanta lemon here in Greece.
That's right. Adrianne is calling in for us today from Greece. Isn't it great, the power of technology and Zoom? So Adrianne, I'm going to mute myself. Hooray, everyone says. If you can keep yourselves muted, everybody, and we will make a start. Over to you, Adrianne. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen. The Wi-Fi is very, very good here. The hotel have kindly let me jump on their best Wi-Fi. So hopefully you can see my screen now. So effective, great, thanks Sue. Effective communications. Now more than ever, we need to be communicating from ourselves and reading other people. So when people talk about body language, they normally say, oh, what does this mean about so-and-so? But I want you to be really conscious today. What are you revealing? What are you, the messages that you're sending are really important. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit, not just from the fact that you can read other people, which is vitally important in business now more than ever, but what's the message you're sending? And if it's not one that you want to send, you might think about changing it, because it makes a big difference, as I'll show you. So I'm a body language expert. I'm also known as the face whisperer. My background is consumer psychology. So for 15 years, I was general manager of a shopper behavior company. And that's where really my understanding of people and why they do what they do and why they don't buy, why they do buy, and all those different effects, sort of, that's where my expertise has come from. And I, as Sue kindly said, I work with the media. I've actually had a contact from one of the daily papers this morning, Harry and Meghan's new photographs that they've had released. I don't know if you've seen them. What do I think of them and what have I read from them? And actually, I had seen them in passing glance and thought, not sure I would use those photographs. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. You know, hopefully you're all on LinkedIn, and the photographs that you're using on LinkedIn, not just your profile picture, but also the pictures that are using for your business. Hopefully none of you are faceless. Hopefully you're minimally filtered if you have to be filtered. But being real is the best thing you can do on social media. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that as well, because it's the impression that you make to other people, is whether they buy from you or whether they don't buy from you. So whether you realize it or not, you're communicating something all of the time. You cannot not communicate. Even if you're just sat there now, minding your own business on Zoom, you're communicating something from your hairstyle, your facial expressions, your body language, your clothes you wear, the backgrounds you choose. Everything is something that you're communicating, and it sends a message. So my advice to very first to start with, be really conscious about the messages that you are sending out to your potential clients and to your clients. And on social media, you don't know who's watching. You know, I put a friend of mine, his son put a congratulations thing on LinkedIn over the weekend. He's just qualified as a solicitor. So I put a little message on, said, brilliant, Will, you're doing really great. I'd love to see it. And he came back with, I love all your stuff, Adrianne. He hasn't liked one of them and he hasn't commented on one of them, but he's watching. You don't know who's watching. So and that I say that in a way that actually that's great. It's an opportunity, because something that you post will all of a sudden just click with someone. And that's what you want, isn't it? That's the easy way to get clients. So we're communicating something all the time. I'm just going to move you all over a little bit so you can make sure you can see. Now, to highlight this, what I've just said about you sending a message, I want you to look at these two pictures of me. This was at a PR event. I was at the Ivy in Manchester, actually, and they've got one of those photo booths, and I had this photograph took, and I just stood in front of it with no thought whatsoever. When it came out, I thought, not really sure about that picture. It's not doing me any favors. So I posed for the next picture. What a difference. What a difference. By just being a bit more conscious of what I do, I've sent a completely different message. It's a genuine smile in the second photograph, the slight hand on the hip, the slight turn to the side, all of these things, they soften down my image. I look a bit of a bruiser, I think, in the first photograph, like I might be ready to take somebody out. Whereas the second image, now that's an image that actually I'd be happy to use anywhere. So be conscious. And if you don't know, ask someone to help you. And I'm always willing to give advice. And as Sue has already said, I have literally got lots of information over on TikTok to help you. So we're going to start with faces. What do our faces reveal? What do we reveal about ourselves, and what do we know about other people? Now, just a quick test, and some of you might have seen these before, but I think they're worth showing because there's quite a lot here that haven't seen them. Which of those do you think is the genuinely happy face? You don't need to shout it out or put it in the comments, just for your own benefit. Can you identify the genuinely happy face from those four? Now, if you said the little girl in the swimming pool, you'd be correct. That's the genuinely happy face. The two, the top left and the bottom, actually, as you look at the screen, top left and bottom right, nothing to do with happiness. And the little girl in the bottom left-hand corner, that's what we call it's a deliberate smile. And she's got a slight wrinkling of her nose. So that's not genuine happiness. And what about this picture? Which would you say? Now, if you say the young man here, who's in the swimming pool again, that would actually be classed as pride. Yes, it's happy pride, but it's pride. The young lady down here, this is surprise. Happy surprise, but it's surprise. This is the prototypical, genuinely happy face. And then finally, which of these is the sad face? Now, what I want you to do is to take your hand and the top left, put your hand so you can only see the baby's eyes. For those of you that thinks maybe that's the answer, do it so you can only see the baby's eyes. And hopefully, now move your hand up so you can only see that baby's mouth. Hopefully you can see two different emotions on that baby's face. So the top emotion would be fear, anxiety, worry, concern, any of those. And the bottom half of the face is showing sadness. And that's why I put in the commentary there, emotions can be tricky to identify and different emotions can conflict on a face. It's not as easy as saying, oh, that's a sad face, that's a happy face. Sometimes it's that easy, but a lot of the times there's lots of stuff going on. So being able to identify the different emotions, and as a quick tip, the top half of the face is always the lead emotion. That's the strongest and the most genuine emotion. Think about it, whoever really manipulates the top half of the face to fake an emotion. We do it all the time with our mouths, you know, fake smile, you know, we do it all the time. So the top half of the face, if you want a clue of what's really going on for someone or how you really feel, and you've got a feeling, you feel some emotion, but you're not sure, go and look in the mirror. What do you see? The top half of your face will be the lead emotion that you're feeling. The answer to this one is the bottom left. That's a prototypical genuine sad face. The baby in the top right, for any of you that have been around babies or had children, you know that's the pure anger. Feed me now, change me now, but do it now. Do something now. Pick me up, whatever that may be. That's an anger face. So when you start to notice and pay attention to people's facial expressions, your communications are going to rocket, because you're getting a piece of information that a lot of times people don't know they've revealed. You know, you might have heard talk about micro expressions. We can't pick them up in real time. Even me, and I'm fully trained as high as you like, I can't pick up micro expressions, but I can pick up the macro expressions that last about 2 seconds on the face. So start watching for them, start paying attention. So there are 43 muscles in the face. Those 43 muscles can make over 16,500 different facial expressions. Of those 16,500, 3,000 are directly linked to emotions. But in the English language, we've got approximately 100 words to describe how we feel on a day-to-day basis. So those 3,000 facial expressions and our 100 words, you can see there's a bit of a mismatch. Our faces will often reveal more than we can verbalize. And that's for identifying for ourselves and in other people. And it's said by scientists that emotions take over 24 times faster than rational thought. So the first response someone gives you, the very first response, is their true emotional response. And then what happens is our brains go into rationalization mode and we give a sensible answer to something. So the analogy I always use here is, you go to the cinema, you know you're going to see a scary film. You know, you've booked it, you've paid your money, you know the content is going to be scary, but you still jump out of your seat during the cinema, during the show. You have that reaction. You don't go running out of the cinema, because your brain then takes over and goes, it's fine, I've paid 10 million quid to be here for my Coke and my popcorn, I can stay and I'm actually safe. But you still have that emotional reaction. So it's a bit of a strong analogy, but that's what's happening as humans all of the time, whether we're shopping, anytime there's a decision to be made, our emotions happen first, then we rationalize them. And whether you're born in Birmingham, whether you're born in Bolivia, or even born blind, there are 7 universal facial expressions that are identifiable. So these are the 7. And you might be thinking, actually, Adrianne, you cannot count. There are 8 pictures there, and there are 8 for a very good reason. So I'll just run through them very quickly. We're not going to have time to touch on all of these things, because I've put a lot of body language stuff in. So I just want to do quickly some facial stuff for those that haven't seen it before, but then go on to the body language stuff. So we've got happiness, fear, disgust, surprise, sadness, contempt, anger, and our last one is neutral. Now, if you are using pictures of yourself in your business or on your profiles or even in your marketing, this actually, the neutral facial expression, is the one that's doing the most damage to your audience, because there's nothing there. It's like the lights are on, but there's nobody home. And the science also says that when people see this neutral facial expression, they actually think that the person's miserable and moody. So you're not just doing your damage, people are perceiving you as something you're not. So if you know, if you look at any of my marketing stuff where I use pictures of me, which I do quite a lot, I will use an emotion appropriate to the post. So if I'm talking about fear, then I'll use a fearful facial expression, because I'm getting that point over. Because our faces, we have what's called the facial feedback theory, where when we see someone's emotion, we automatically copy. So when I start talking about emotions, and I'm going to show you a few more, your faces will change. You can't help it, because that's what we do as humans. And it's a good thing. And it's also a really good piece of advice that if you don't know what someone's body language or facial expression means, you think, I've just noticed that, I have no idea what that means. Make that facial expression or make that body language movement yourself, and that will give you a really good clue as to how that person was feeling. And I've told lots of people this, and they come back to me and go, that is so true. And they practice it, you know, they see things, think, I have no idea what it means, but I'll try it on for size myself and see how I feel. And it works every time. So when we're dealing with people, we've got to be really aware that emotions are more powerful than rational words. We want to get through to people's emotions, because that's where the decisions are made. So I'm going to quick whiz through. I think I've got 3 or 4 facial expressions. Now, this one's quite hard to see, but I've isolated the top half, because remember what I said? This is what we see, the true lead emotion in someone's face. So this facial expression, can you see the half smile? What I want you to do is put your hand like that this time and cover up his left hand side of his face and cover up his right hand side of the face so that you can see each side of the face isolated. And you'll see on the left hand side, as you look at it, you'll see it's neutral. There's nothing going on. There's no expression. But on the right hand side of his face, as you look at it, that half smile. Now that is contempt. And that means if you see this on someone's face or you have it on your face, you are feeling, I don't respect you, I feel superior to you, or I'm better than that. It's that kind of emotion, which people will say, well, that's really negative. It kind of is. I mean, I wouldn't ever hire someone who was showing that facial expression because they either think they're better than you or they think they're better than the role. Either way, they're going to be a nightmare to manage. So just don't even go there. But that half smile, there's a lot of research done on contempt. And for me, it's one of my most favorite to spot because it tells you so much. It's a cold emotion. It's an isolating emotion. It's a distancing emotion. So check your profile pictures. If you've got this smile in any of your profile pictures, I recommend you change it because it is creating distance. People think you look a bit smug or a bit cocky or a bit arrogant. We don't want to be putting that message over in business. Now, if you were showing this facial expression, you just won an award, a Business Women's Award or some sort of award, it's okay because you're like, oh yeah, I'm better than everyone else. You know, a bit of pride, there's no harm in that whatsoever. But if you want to draw people into your marketing and into you, I wouldn't recommend this facial expression. And psychologists have found that couples that go to Relate or couples counselling, they can accurately predict, I think it's like 87% accuracy, which couples will stay together and which will break up based on this one expression alone. Because couples, either one or both of them that show this facial expression, the respect has gone from the relationship. And it's time to either do some serious work on the relationship and get the respect back or call it a day. So I think contempt is very useful. And there's some examples of it that you can see. It's not always a bad thing to use in marketing as long as there's a purpose with it. With any emotion that you're going to use in your marketing, make sure you've got a really good purpose. So this, I don't know if you can see that one there. I'll just move you all over. This one is for the Always advert, and they've used a little bit of contempt in their advert. And the slogan says, well, how would you feel if I said that you run like a girl? And actually, that's a really clever use of contempt because it's not a great phrase, is it? You know, as women, it's like a slur. So to use contempt there against that slur of how would you feel if I said you run like a girl? It's a great use of contempt. So you can use it, but use it with a purpose. So our next emotion, you might be guessing surprise. I'm thinking some of you might think surprise. This would actually be classified as fear or any sort of word that comes under the heading of fear. And I'll tell you why this is different to surprise. The forehead wrinkling across the top there, this is to do with anxiety, worry, concern. In surprise, you don't get the forehead. I haven't got surprising to show you today, but you do get the eyes open wide, get the jaw drop, you know, big surprise, but you don't get the forehead wrinkling in surprise. And the other key characteristic of this is the lips that are stretched back either side. It's not a smile, it's anxiety. Lips that are stretched back, but don't turn up. If they turn up, that's to do with happiness, which I have got to show you. They go across, it's always concern, anxiety. You might see this. People do that. They're actually stopping that. They're stopping that lip stretch across. So in lots of our situations, you know, in business that we're all in, we might not see the full-on fear, unless you're a driving instructor. You might not see the full-on fear in this image, but you will see, if you're carefully not to look for, you will see the lips going across like that, or you might even hear the intake of breath. Now, this is the time, as you can see at the bottom of the slide, people who do that feel out of control. So if you're in a negotiation and you're talking about price and you see what you think is the lips going across, that's the time to start talking about your guarantees. It's the time to start talking about payment plans, maybe. It's the time to give reassurances. The person needs something more, and that's your clue. And if you show these facial expressions, you know, you feel that your lips, when you start practicing this, you'll feel your lips go, okay, what am I worried about? What is it that that's giving me cause for concern? And it helps you to make better decisions once you start to understand yourself better than ever before. Because you think, okay, my natural reaction is concern. So what is it that I've heard or seen that's giving me cause for concern? So that's fear. And our next emotion, this is quite hard to see from the top half of the face, but it's there. You might be thinking anger, but this is actually disgust. And disgust is always about the nose wrinkling. I can do it very well, apparently. Wrinkling of the nose is always disgust. So if you've had teenagers or been around teenage and you say, go and clean your bedroom, you go, oh, do I have to? That's that nose wrinkling of disgust. Now, people will do this when they hear or see something they don't like. So it's the nose wrinkling, you get the kind of square upper lip. Again, if you're in a meeting or you're talking to a potential client or even a client, and you see, sometimes you'll just see a little flicker of that nose of disgust. They've heard and seen something they don't like. So it's your cue to start trying to find out what that is. It might be really obvious depending on what business you're in, but it might not be. So these, I would say, when you ever see any facial expressions or body language movements, these are your times to start asking really good questions. So I wouldn't say, well, I've just seen disgust on your face, so I can tell you don't like it. I would say, is there anything else you'd like me to add? Or is there anything else that you'd really like to see in this proposal? Is there anything else that you'd like to deliver as part of this project? Because you know you've seen some dislike. So I had an experience of this. I was in a meeting with American Express. I was about to deliver a workshop for them. We were talking about the content, and I just saw a flicker of disgust on one of my potential clients' faces. And I hadn't closed the deal at this point. And I said, what else would you like, Christine? Is there anything else that I could add that you would really love to see in this presentation, this workshop? And she said, yeah, and I'm not really bothered about what I just said. She said, I'd really actually like to see more about so-and-so. And I was like, okay, that's fine. At the end of the meeting, she said, I've been thinking you read my face, didn't you? You knew I didn't like. And I was like, yes, I did. Of course I did. She said, but you've given me exactly what I want. She said, I didn't even really, she said, I hadn't been clear what I wanted myself, but you helped me clarify it. That's the beauty of understanding what's going on for other people. Sometimes they don't always know what they want themselves, but you can help clarify it by some really good questions, by noticing what's going on in their face or their body language. So our final facial expression before I go on to body language, let's just time check. What do you see here? This is Hillary Clinton. Hopefully see happiness. This would be classified as genuine happiness because her eyes are fully engaged. A sign of genuine happiness is when you get the bunching under the eyes and the crow's feet at the side that we all don't like, that leave lines, but they're actually a really good sign of genuine happiness. Now, this I also think, along with contempt, is my favorite one to talk about and to notice, because it's vital you know the difference between a genuine smile and a polite smile or a deliberate smile. And this is why. This is an experiment I did back in my research days. We were given some free samples by our client, Johnson & Johnson, and shoppers were asked to help themselves to a free sample at the end of the interview. In Tesco, we interviewed 200 shoppers, and at the end, the interviewer said to them, just help yourself to a free sample of mouthwash. We were in the toothpaste aisle, and 72% of the shoppers chose from this box A. And that was with a genuine smile. There was no other difference between the boxes. They were swapped over halfway through the day, and 28% chose from this box. And when asked why, not one person could say why they chose this box to this box, because subconsciously we're drawn to genuine smiles. And that's not a horrible smile, you know, pretty girl, nice face, nice smile still, but it's not as engaging. So if you're using a polite or a deliberate smile in your profile pictures, in your marketing, you're missing out on a potentially 3 times more engagement than you could have than genuine smiles. And if you're in a meeting and you get to the end of the meeting with a potential client or a client and you've delivered something, if you don't see those genuine smiles appear, you know there's more work for you to be done because they're not genuinely happy. Now, my daughter-in-law is a hairdresser. She's a mobile hairdresser. And I always say to her, you know, when you get to the end of the hair, if you don't see the genuine smiles, they're not genuinely happy. If they're not genuinely happy, they're not going to recommend her. They're not going to book her again. That's her finish with that client. But if she notices that it's a polite smile and not a genuine smile, she can say, would you like a bit more off your fringe? Is the colour how you like it? Would you like me to do it a bit darker next time? And by noticing the fact that the person, she doesn't refer to their smile, by noticing the fact that she hasn't given them quite what they want, she's got an opportunity there and then to do something about it, which if she leaves and doesn't do all of that, asking the questions to find out what hasn't truly lit them up, if she leaves, her opportunity is gone. Because in hairdressing, you can't get that back. And I would imagine some of your businesses are the same. Same with me. If I don't get it right in that potential meeting, I'm done. I don't often get a second chance. So it's about using the best opportunities you've got and making the most of them. So that's our quick whiz through some facial expressions. So now on to the body language bit. So those that have seen me present before, this is the bit that you're all now going, oh, I'm ready now. I'm ready. So here we go. So the feet are the most truthful part of the body. Did you know that? A bit like the top half of the face. Whoever thinks to regulate their feet? In a networking meeting, when people are stood around chatting, look at the feet. Even if you don't look at who you're talking to's feet, notice other people's feet. Where are the feet pointed? Because where the feet are pointed is where the person wants to go. If you're dating, go and stand in a bar and look at people's feet. Look at your own feet. Someone's trying to chat you up. Which feet? You don't even have to think about it. Just that, where do my feet go? Okay, my feet are pointed towards the door. Off. You can do one. The feet are so interested because they will always tell the truth about what's going on for a person. Look at the feet in this picture. Now, for me, that's very clear. She's half in, she's half out, and he's not quite bought in. So I would say, if this was a work meeting, which it looks like the setting is a work meeting, they can be convinced. It's not a negative, but there's still some work to be done. The feet will give you clues as to what's going on. This one, we're just missing the bottom half of their feet, unfortunately, with their slide as it is, but they're pointing towards each other. That's great, but it doesn't allow anybody else in. That's a meeting of minds, if you like. They're both fully engaged, but nobody else can come in into that meeting. And you may not want that. You may want to invite other people in. So if you just turn your feet slightly, that would include other people. Now, proxemics, you might not have heard of that word, but it's basically how we use the space that we have as humans. And it can be very telling for us. So from this picture, you might think that's a nice, happy Christmas. See, they're all happy. They're all smiling, genuine smiles. The space and the way they're using it tells me a lot. The girl in the middle, she's actually pulling away. You can see her pulling away. It is a genuine smile, but that tells me, her body angle is also angled away from the other girl. Yes, she's smiling. She doesn't want to be in that conversation. Think about the space that you use. Even on Zoom, we lean in when we like something. We lean away when we don't like something. And in real life, it's even easier to spot. And think about the things. So if you're in a meeting and you're in a meeting room, look at the way people use this stuff on the table in front of them. They'll always keep their phone close to them. If they feel really confident and really comfortable, they'll allow their phone to get a bit further away from them on the table, and they'll start taking over the space on the table. How people use space around them is so interesting. And the more someone feels confident and maybe in charge, the more space they will use. And I'm going to show you how people actually use their body shortly to use the space too. So what do you think about this picture? When there's lots going on. Can you see her pulling back? She's pulling away. He's leaning in slightly, so he's a lot more, he might be trying to get his point across, but they've both got barriers up and they're not mirroring each other's body language. Oftentimes when we're in sync with someone, we will mirror their body language. So I think I've got a picture in here where I'll show you a picture of mirroring. People do it when they're on the same page. Unconsciously, they'll mirror. So if you're in a meeting, if there's 10 people in the meeting and you're all sat around a table, it's really easy, if you understand mirroring, to see who is in line with each other, because they will unconsciously mirror each other. Their behavior will be very similar. If one's chewing a pen, the other that's in line with them and on the same page as them, they'll be chewing a pen. So watch out for that. Watch how people use the space and watch who they're copying, because who they're copying, and it will be done unconsciously unless they're NLP masters, It will be done unconsciously, and it will show you who's in sync with who. Now the hands give a lot of information when you know what to look for. So what do you think of this? It can just be a really comfy way to sit. I sit like that sometimes when I'm on Zoom meetings. Piles sat like that now. Nothing too negative to read there. It's just comfortable. And that's the other thing I want to say with body language. You've got to be really careful. You don't assume it means something. Always ask yourself, what else could this mean? If you automatically went to, he's bored, he's fed up, you might have missed actually the fact. He looks to me a bit like he's thoughtful. So he might just be comfortable. He looks like he's waiting. We don't know the truth of this because it's a picture I bought off, one of the websites. Don't assume anything. Arms crossed. I'll talk about arms crossed again. Everyone thinks that's defensive. Not necessarily. I often sit like that with my arms crossed. It doesn't mean I'm feeling defensive. It means I'm comfortable in that situation. So context is key for everything you see. And also the question, I really want you to think about this question, what else could this mean? So that you don't go down a rabbit hole of wrong information. So what about this, the button above the jacket? This is something you often actually see with the royals, Prince William, King Charles, still feels a bit weird saying that. They often see them doing it. And it's kind of, when people feel a bit hesitant or unsure, they have the world's media watching their every move. Who wouldn't feel a little unsure in certain situations? But it's a way of sort of deflecting and doing something with the hands. Oftentimes people feel very uncomfortable and don't know what to do with their hands. I always recommend, I use this, which I haven't brought up with me, which I thought I had, but I put something in my hand. If I think I'm talking in front of an audience, I think I'm going to be like, what to do with my hands, I'll hold something. Even if it's just a little something, I'll hold it in my hand. And it kind of puts your brain, so, okay, your hand's doing something, so you must be safe. Nothing to worry about, nothing to see here. So if you do feel nervous, you're in front of an audience or you're speaking at a meeting, put something in your hand, even if it's a pen, and it will just kind of put your mind totally at rest. But if you see this in someone else, you can assume they're feeling a little bit hesitant and maybe a bit nervous. This is one of my favorite things to watch for in meetings. So for some of my clients, I do go and sit along in meetings with them. It is the pistol steeple. So yes, exactly that, Sue Crooks, exactly that. You will only ever see the person in a meeting who has the power, which Sue does in this meeting. She's the boss. She could pistol steeple us all out of here. This means if you see this in a meeting, the person has the power and the confidence to shoot down your ideas, and they might be getting ready to do so. This is also a confidence thing, and I did a couple of TikToks on this and they went a bit bonkers. This is a confidence thing. If you want to show your confidence, you're not really feeling confident, just put your fingers like that. People will assume you're confident. I've got another picture on that, but the pistol steeple, getting ready to shoot someone down, and will only be ever used. So if you're trying to find out who the most powerful person is in the room, it'll be the person doing that potentially. Fingers on lips, literally what it is, keeping something in. Maybe if I see this, I will ask gently, is there anything else you'd like to add? If I see someone with their fingers on their lips, is there anything you'd like to say? Is there anything you'd like to add? I don't push it because they might not want to speak and they might not think it's appropriate, but I do give people the opportunities to speak with that. I can show a little bit of concern as well. This is one of my favorites. So this is like the thinker, he's thinking, he's evaluating. You can see that. Now, the higher the finger goes up the face, the more disapproving he is. So if we get to here, just forget it. You're done. You ain't winning that piece of business. You're done. The finger will tell you a lot. So here, thinking. So once it gets sort of past the mouth ways, it is actually a sign of disapproval. So it's thinking and evaluating, but not necessarily from a good place. There's actually more work for you to do. And if you find yourself doing it, you'll find yourself doing some of these, you might quickly want to revise because you're giving away information yourself. You might quickly want to revise your body language. This is the steepled fingers. Angela Merkel does this. Angela Merkel does this in most pictures you see. She's in a man's world. She's surrounded by men. She may feel a little unconfident. She's been trained to hold her hands like this to just make her feel a bit more confident and something to do with her hands. So use this one as well. Practice it. I would say with all of these, if you're going to use any of these to put across the right image that you want to project and to portray, practice them first, either in front of the mirror or film yourself, so that you come across as confident, not like, oh, I'm just trying it for the first time, how does it feel? Practice it so you'd come across confidently. And we all know what the finger tapping is. You might be able to hear me now, but that is impatience. If you see that in a meeting, or you find yourself doing that in a meeting, it's time to wrap up and move on, because that is a sign of boredom and impatience. Open palms. Sorry, is that a bit noisy? Can you hear me okay still? Yeah, you can hear me okay. It's all right, there's somebody talking in reception. You think they'd stop running the hotel for an hour, wouldn't you? Which is a bit rude. So rude. Open palms, it can be, and I've got a picture I'll show you in a minute. This is like people, the more you show your hands, the more people trust you, the research says, the science says. So don't be hiding your hands. If you're in a meeting and it's a potential client, and even on Zoom, you know, I've been gesturing. I've not done it on purpose. I naturally do gesture a lot. Show your hands, because people trust you more, the research says. So our lovely arms folded. You know, that could just be, this is the time when you say to yourself, because there are so many myths around arms folding, it's defensive, it's a barrier, and it can be. I would only notice someone's arms folded if it was a contentious subject and they hadn't had their arms folded and then they went to fold their arms. Then I would say, okay, the barrier just gone up. But if they've always been sat like that, it's just a really comfortable way for them to sit. So don't read too much into arms folded. This is what, if you want to come across as the dominant person in the room, this is what you should do. This is, I'm the boss. I am running the roost. Men don't like this. Men don't like this posture at all. They find it dominant and bossy, but sometimes you may need to use this. But this is also the power pose that Amy Cuddy recommends before you go into an important meeting or somewhere where you need to feel more confident. Go to the bathroom, stand like this for 2 minutes, and you will raise your levels of testosterone and other confidence building hormones. Just do this pose for 2 minutes. Stand up. That's right. Let me just see who this is at the bottom of the screen that's doing it very well. Karen Selby's doing it very well. She's practicing it even if she's sitting down. You can do it sitting down, you can do it standing up. It's worth it. I probably wouldn't use it in a meeting myself unless I really wanted to portray a certain image. I'd be quite careful how I used it in public. But definitely if you want to raise your confidence, that's the one to do. And this is what I was talking about, the palms. He looks a bit pleading to me. So if you are going to use palms, and practice it again, if you're going to use it in a meeting, raise them a little bit higher, because they're a little bit low. And the lower it is, the more pleading it looks. So just raise those palms a little bit more if you want to build trust with your audiences. Just back to the arm crawling, I really like this picture, because actually this is a really good sign. Thumbs up. It means the same in practically any language. Thumbs up is a good sign. You know, I'm here in Greece. If I do thumbs up to the waiter, he knows I'm happy. Thumbs up is good. So wherever someone is displaying thumbs up, he's not defensive. He's actually really quite happy and quite smug, actually, I would say, about something. Just go on. And so I've just written a PDF on this about reading the room. If you're dressed really formally, but you don't want to come across as aloof or distance, put your hand in your pocket, you'll look more relaxed. Doesn't he look relaxed? You've got a nice smile as well. You might, so I do this sometimes, but I was doing a presentation in Manchester for young solicitors last week before I came away, and they were all very formal, and I was dressed very formally, but I just put my hand in my pocket a little bit every now and then, just to be more approachable, particularly before and after the meeting, because I want people to come and talk to me and have a chat. So although I was dressed very formally, I relaxed it slightly. So the more relaxed you can look, but still formal, the more approachable you are. And it's just about being really conscious of the effect or what you're projecting to other people. Be really thinking about that, not just about what you can read in them, but what they can read in you and how you want to be perceived. So important. Hands that are hidden, as we've just touched on, you know, the hiding, nervousness. You often see this with, you know, the people who tuck their hands in. It's a sign of nerves and anxiety. So use that, you know, gentle question around that, I would say. And then this is the sign of the body language movement that women really don't like that men do. So men don't like us hands on hips. Women aren't bothered about other women doing that, but men don't like it. This is the one. Other men aren't bothered about men doing that. So the ankle crossed, it's creating a barrier, but it's also a very dominant. Women do not like this. And yeah, I did a TikTok on it and I got hundreds and hundreds of comments from women saying, oh yeah, my boss does that, I hate it. And it will always be. So in this interaction, I know he's the boss, the man with the pen and his leg crossed on his knee. I know he's the boss because it'll only be the dominant alpha male that will do that in a meeting. You won't find an underling ever doing that. You'll see the boss doing that. So it's one to look out for. So I've put some signs in for, and I'm not going to go through all of them, but if anyone wants a copy of the slides, PDF, just ask Sue. I'll send them to Sue and you can have a PDF of these so you can just flick through them. But signs of openness, you're looking for clusters ideally. You don't just want one movement, you want 2 or 3. So 2 or let me just click on that again. 2 or 3. So open hands, relaxed posture, leaning forward. Sorry, my machine's wobbling. Leaning forward, moving closer, uncrossed arms. And I did a post on this the other day. Open mind, open face, open body language. It's open. Closed face, closed body language, possibly a closed mind. And use that as a rule of thumb. The more open their body language and face is, the more open-minded they are. The more closed their face, the more closed their body language, potentially they may be closed-minded. The evaluating, so the tilted head can often be a question, the tilted head, chin stroking evaluation, leaning to, leaning back. When people do that, and you'll see them do it in succession, they're evaluating, they're thinking about it. So they're in, they're out, they haven't made their mind up. And you'll often see people scratch their necks and they do it for 5 times. And that's quite specific. When someone is evaluating, that neck scratch will be 5 times. And you count it. And I've had people message me go, you'll never believe it. They do it 5 times. I don't know why we do it as humans, but it is 5 times neck scratching. So there's a little bit of work to do to get them in. Placement of the fingers. Remember what I said, the higher the person, although they're evaluating, the higher it goes, the more disapproving they might be. And people will do things to gain time, like cleaning their glasses or messing with something in evaluation mode. And then there are the signs for nervousness, clearing throat, fidgeting, jingling, jangling, change in their pockets, whatever, twitching. And sometimes when someone's nervous, they'll do that inhale before they speak. Megan does that in the Oprah interview. Before she goes to answer some of the questions, she does that. You think, okay, she's actually not as confident as she appears when she's being interviewed. Signs of impatience, so finger tappings, foot swinging, brushing lint off you, looking at your watch and moving away, so that using that space to move away. And then defensiveness can be rigid, arms or legs tightly crossed, minimal eye contact, watchful and head down, and fists, people show fists. So think back to where we started. What is the impact you are having? It's not just about reading other people, it's about how they read you. So remember, unconscious is me on the left, conscious and thoughtful is me on the right. And that's it. So we have a membership, the Intuition and Body Language membership. So if anyone's interested, just drop me a message and I'll talk to you about it. But that is the end of that.
Thank you so much, Adrianne. That is brilliant. I love it. I just love learning these things. And I have heard you speak on a few occasions over the years, and you still capture me with everything. And it's really interesting, everybody, because I just want to jump on a couple of things. But please do pop any questions into the chat box now while I'm just going over a couple of things from me. But the feet thing is so important. If you've been to a Sue Tonks networking training session, Sue and Adrianne both say about the feet. And we're in a networking community. And I know we don't do so many in-person events anymore, but you can be closing someone completely off who really actually wants to come and speak with you by the way your feet are and your body position. So remember that, ladies, be open to people at networking events, because you might be closing people off. But also, while your questions are coming into the chat box, I know we've got Parlin, and I think Jackie's here as well. I don't know about Parlin and Jackie, but I look at your faces on Zooms. So yesterday we had Steph speaking for our Ivanhoe event. Steph's in the room. Hi, Steph, and a few people there. Well, thank you, Steph. And I knew she got everyone's engagement by their facial expressions, because people were listening, and because I've listened, and I'm part of one of Adrianne's memberships as well, I understand and I'm learning, and it's really important we do know this as hosts, that you have got everyone. I've also been to a networking event on Zoom where no one is interested about the person speaking, but we noticed that. So it wasn't actually one of mine, it was another one, and it wasn't Jackie's or Piles, but it was a meeting. Oh, Julie's here as well, sorry Julie. It was a meeting, and the person doing the insights just lost everybody. So would we have that person come and speak for us again? No. So it is really, really important. So let me have an open up of the chat box now. So many fantastic comments here. So thank you everybody for all the wonderful comments. Let's have a look, see if we can. They're all really praising you. Let's see if we've got any questions. Okay, so Ali here, who did our workshop last time. Thank you, Ali. How can you tell if someone is really drawn to you, Adrianne?
I would be looking for the leaning in, and I would be looking for them to be, if it was in real life, I'd be looking for them to be in my space a bit more. We get close to things that we like and want to be interested. So leaning in, use of the space, and not if they're leaning away. To me, that's a big red flag. Genuine smiles. This, which I didn't say, but watch this now. That flash of the eyes when you say something, they do a flash of the eyes and the smile with it. Can't do it very well, sorry. A flash of the, naturally I can't do it. I know I do it all the time when I'm genuinely interested, so then we all do. But that to me is a really good sign, that flash and a gentle smile. It's actually one of the best buying signals you can ever get. They're hooked, they're in.
Are we all doing that now to Adrianne?
You'll practice.
We're all hooked. We're in. Oh, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Now, Serena, are there any tells to look out for when trying to work out if someone is lying?
Yes and no. So the secret to telling out if someone is lying is to know what their normal behavior is. When they lie, they'll change their normal behavior. So there is no one, like, scratching the nose. It's not a sign of lying. Someone could just have an itchy nose. But if someone's normal behavior, and you can pick someone's baseline of normal behavior up within 5 minutes, 5 minutes of general chit chat, you can see what someone normally, where there's no emotional stakes at risk, just normal chit chat. How did you get here today? What was the weather like? Normal chit chat, 5 minutes of that, you've got someone's baseline fairly accurately. Now, when you start talking about the subject you want to talk about, or you're in a negotiation, if that behavior changes, there's something to dig into. So you're looking for changes in behavior. The other thing I would say, although this isn't a sign of lying, it is a sign that some people don't believe what they've just said. And it is the nose wrinkling I've discussed. People will do that when they say something, but they don't believe it. So it's not a sign of lying as such. But it's well worth, if a salesman ever comes to me and I see the nose wrinkling, I'm off, because if he doesn't believe in his product, why should I believe in his product? It's a really good sign that there's no belief in what's being said. So there is no one sign of lying. The best tip I can give you is watch for changes in behavior. So if someone is already a fidgeter and they stop fidgeting, okay, why? If they don't fidget and they start fidgeting in some way, why? That's what happened, what was said, what did they see at that point? That's when I become interested. I hope that helps.
Thank you. Love it. Wendy, one of our newer members. Hi, Wendy. Hope you're all right. I often find myself, actually, this is one of my things. I often find myself mirroring others when feel I should change my stance. Is that necessary?
No, it's really not necessary. people aren't aware of this sort of stuff unless they've done a lot of NLP or trained in body language. People aren't aware of the mirroring thing. And why not show you're on the same page as somebody else? If you genuinely are and you find yourself mirroring something, I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't ever try to regulate my behavior or my facial expressions. Be real, be authentic. People will buy that. Even if you show you don't like something, that's okay. It's okay to be who you are. And if you do find yourself mirroring, that's good information for you to know that actually, oh, this person and I, we're on the same sheet, we're on the same page. I like this person. It's a good sign.
Thank you. Fahima has asked, any thoughts on rounding shoulders in?
Yeah,
I feel like I do to make others feel more confident by making myself smaller. That's really interesting.
Spot on, Fahima. That is something that people do. So I have a client at Unilever, and she said to me, she talks quite gently, and she said, I don't always feel like, I mean, she's one of the gods at Unilever, so she is being taken seriously, but I don't always feel I'm being taken as seriously as I would like. I think people underestimate me. I said, just put your shoulders back so it's natural, not so that it's uncomfortable, but shoulders back slightly and raise your chin so it's level, and just slightly drop your tone of voice, just slightly, don't go really deep. People will take you more seriously. As women sometimes, and I see this a lot, particularly in younger women, where they'll do this silly little voice and it's all gentle and it's so lovely. People won't take that seriously. One of the girls I used to work with years ago, she had this, what can I do to progress myself? Drop your voice. First thing you can do is drop your tone of voice slightly. If you want to be taken seriously, now she works at Boots and she's very senior in the insights department. And she just say, one of the things you made me think about was actually, how do I want to be perceived? So, if you are doing it to make yourself small, to make other people more confident, why would you do that? You can be confident too. You don't need to demean yourself so other people are confident. That's their job. If they need to feel confident, that's their job to sort. Your job is for you to put yourself across in the best light.
Thank you. Our final question from Steph. Are there any insights on body language on Zoom? And we're on Zoom hell of a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I'd still be looking for that leaning in. You'll see people do it on Zoom. And the good thing about Zoom, which I forgot to say earlier, is you can pin people. So in a meeting like this, if I was interested in one specific person, I could pin that person and they would never know. And I could just concentrate on them. Unfortunately, I don't think you can pin 2 or 3 people, which I would find quite useful sometimes in a meeting. But you can pin, just decide who's the most important and watch that person, watch their facial expressions. We haven't got a lot of information. We've got sort of this, and if they show their hands, we haven't got a lot, but we've got enough to start asking some really good questions with people. And the leaning in and leaning out will all tell you a lot. And people's attention, it's very easy to be distracted on Zoom. I've done it myself where I check my phone, read my emails. It's very easy. And if you find that happening, a lot of people you're losing them, you've got to up your game somehow. It's your job to keep their attention.
Thank you. I've got one more question. I think that's the last one then. Kirsty Mack, how do you stop your interested face looking like you're annoyed?
It's a good question.
Sometimes in meetings, people think I'm annoyed, but I'm genuinely concentrating and thinking.
Now, as ladies of a certain age, which a lot of us are on this call, I have a client at Samaritans and she's a lovely lady, but she's got resting bitch face, I'll be honest. And she said, I really struggle with my team because they always think I'm cross with them. And actually, I'm just really interested in listening and processing. I said to her, what you need to do is at the start of every meeting or any interaction with the team, say, remember, I've got RBF face. So if you see me looking cross, you probably take it as a real, unless you've peed me off, take it as a really good sign that actually I'm interested and I'm processing. Because some of us do have RBF face. When I'm concentrating, I could be like, but it just means I'm interested and I'm concentrating. So don't assume anything. But also you could ask someone, you could say, is that your cross face or is that your interested face? People don't mind that, as long as you ask it with a nice smile and not accusatory. Gentlemen, is that your cross face? Have I done something wrong? Or is that your interested face? Just so I know. And, use that advice, use that And people don't mind if you ask that question. But if you've got one of those faces, which I can do, if you've got RBF face, then tell people that I've got resting bitch face. I'm not cross. I'm just concentrating.
Oh, thank you so much, Adrianne Carter. You have been superb as always. Thank you for sharing all your expertise with our members. We will be on replay, but I am going to stop the recording now.